Hello, we're recording. We're
Oh,
recording
we're
now.
recording?
Yeah, we're doing it.
I was making post-it notes.
Yeah, you have notes. My notes is just that I listened to the episode before calling you. Hi.
I mean, fair enough.
Yeah, we're doing it, and we're gonna do this every week and not forget to do things again,
Absolutely not.
and leave it for like a month or two.
Well, we're going to stay on top of it this time. What are we
Yeah,
staying on top of? Lore whores protocol. Lore whores, it's protocol now. Lore whores protocols. Um, we're talking about the Magnus protocol.
woo.
Yeah, it's 3 episodes are out so far if you're not caught up. It is the sequel series to the Magnus Archives, which is a horror podcast distributed by Rusty Quill.
It is a
Um,
podcast. The Magnus
it
Archives is a
sure is a
podcast.
podcast. That was a 200 piece podcast that finished, I think 2 years ago. It finished like in late 2020. That's 4 years ago, isn't it?
Fuck me.
Ooh.
Yeah, because I remember when they were doing the final series, they were like, "Hey, we're really sorry. Like, we're talking about like disease and stuff in this. We wrote
Yeah.
this before COVID happened."
Yeah, because I caught up to the Magnus Archives as season 5 was just starting, and that was my obsession for the first like few months of lockdown. And it finished during lockdown. I remember listening to the last episode in my room, under the covers, and just like crying because I was like, "What the fuck is happening?"
Yeah,
Um, so safe to say, spoilers for the Magnus Archives and spoilers for
the
the
Magnus
Magnus Protocol.
Protocol. Yeah, I feel like this is mostly just gonna be like us like talking about like theories we have and also
Yes.
just what we'd like about the episodes. Because obviously,
Mhm.
whilst the Magnus Protocol can be watched on its own, like I do like how at the very beginning of the episode, the first episode, Alex Alex J. Newell talks about hey, this is like the perfect place to start off, and you know you don't need to listen to the Magnus Archives to enjoy this, which I think is a very very good move to make because oh my god, the Magnus Archives is a slog.
It's intimidating, yeah.
It's
Especially because,
200 episodes.
yeah.
And
And I think you put it perfectly when you said that the Magnus Archives is horror stories that then develop into having plot, whereas the Magnus Protocols appears to be plot that happens to have horror stories alongside it.
yeah, I feel like the Magnus Protocol has a better long-term goal in mind as working as more of a narrative rather than hey, I just really like writing short horror stories and I'm going to weave like a sort of narrative through it. Like I feel
Mhm.
like the first series and the second series are like very good at what they do. I just wish that like the overall story was shorter. Because like 200 episodes with like 40 minutes a piece, for like 20 to 40 minutes depending on like the episode length, it is a
Yeah, they were,
lot.
usu- they were usually around about 20 minutes, half an hour at a push.
Yeah, and like I feel like um it would be better like if they were their own individual entities rather than like the fact that they all overlap and they all have clues within each other that link to other things and culminating stories. Like, for example, Annabelle Kane, the spider lady, the web lady.
Hmm.
She showed up in like the final series, and I straight up did not know who she was. And it's just
Oh,
because
fair
there are
enough.
so many names thrown about that like I don't process all of them. If you like making lists, listen to the Magnus Archives. It's very good. And also it's just really good background noise if you like horror. The individual
Hmm.
stories are great. However, the overarching plot is a lot to take in, and you will miss things.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I think even as it was coming out, like when I only got to listen to one series, like as it was releasing, but I would listen to it and then I'd be like, okay, okay, to the Wikipedia page that I can figure out who the fuck that was and be
Yeah.
like, oh, okay, these dots are connecting, right? Yeah. Um, for the Magnus Protocol, currently, I have a program called Obsidian, which is absolutely incredible. It's free, you can download it. And it's sort of like a mapping program. It lets you have folders within folders, and you can connect those together with like specific titles. I'm not describing it very well, but it lets you basically create like a folder with all of your little documents inside, and then you can look at it all in like a spider web type of situation that lets you see all the dots literally connected. And I'm doing that now with Protocol from the start so that I don't miss a single thing. Because Johnny Sims is not going to fucking get it past me again. Not this time. I'm on to him.
Yeah,
I am on to you.
like I listened to the first three episodes and I was like, oh, this is like really enjoyable. I'm liking this. I'm liking what they're setting out. It seems a lot more listenable. And then like you messaged me and you were going like, I've made a spider diagram, and I'm like, of course you have. Uh,
You're lucky it's not an Excel spreadsheet. You are lucky it's not in a graph.
oh my god, yeah. Obsidian's like it's like a word processor with like sorting functions and everything. It's just really good if you want to write things. It's particularly good for world building and like big complicated projects like that. Um,
Hmm.
but yeah, use that and not Word because Word fucking sucks.
Nightmare. But yeah, it also has spell checker now. It also has spell checker, which is very
Yes, I was
nice.
so glad when they added that because I can't spell.
Yeah. But
uh,
yeah, we've got 3 episodes out so far. The first one, which is called First Shift. The second episode is called Making Adjustments, and the third episode is called Putting Down Roots. Episode 1 and 2 released on the same day, and then Putting Down Roots came out this last Thursday.
yeah, so we've
And
got
they've been
another
really
one.
good so far.
Yeah, we've got another one
I've
in
got
two
another one
days.
tomorrow.
Yeah, we're recording this on the Wednesday. Oh yeah, shit, tomorrow.
Wednesday.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is Wednesday the 31st, and
Fuck
then
yeah.
episode 4 comes out tomorrow, February 1st.
Okay,
So
okay.
each month, next month, 29 days of February. That's nice.
Hell yeah. Right. Well,
Shout
I
out to the
mean,
leap year. But yeah,
where the fuck
they've
do
been
we
really good
begin?
episodes. Well, do you want to talk about the cast and then we can talk about what we know about the world now?
Yeah, yeah. So, um, okay, yeah. So, something that I like about how they've introduced this is that immediately we have multiple characters.
Hmm.
We have Alice, we have Sam, we have oh fuck, Gwen.
Colin, my beloved.
We have Colin as well. We have Colin, we have Gwen, and we have Lena.
Yes.
And also in the first episode we have Teddy, who is
Yes.
leaving.
Yes.
He's leaving for another job, which is an important difference because right, there's obviously parallels between this place and the Magnus Institute from the first series.
Hmm.
But one of the main differences that that is noticeable immediately is he's leaving his job, which they can't do in the Magnus Institute. So there's already that
Yeah.
difference.
I
Um,
also think it's really they open up at his leaving party, which is a really good place to start a story, I think, because it lets you see the dynamic, it lets you see the sort of the setting, and it also introduces you to everybody because there's a new person there taking over the role that is also being introduced with you.
yeah. I also think
But
that they do a really good job at sort of mentioning people's names enough times because like
yeah.
they are it's like most of the interactions have like two or three more people um sorry, three or more people. So it's like, they need to address who they're talking to. So you end up actually hearing their names a lot. So it makes it a lot less confusing, and it's nice to see the sort of cast as a whole to begin with, and knowing we're going to revisit them.
I also love that like everybody's northern and they've all got very specific regional accents. So it's actually a lot easier, I think, to distinguish between everybody because of the fact that they all have different dialects, they all have different like accents, and I'm loving it. I'm living for it.
Yeah, I mean, Lena is like clearly has like a Yorkshire accent. Alice is genuinely the voice actor for Alice is a trans girl from Preston, my home turf. Whoop. So yeah, I have representation now.
We use specific representation, like honestly, slay.
Yeah,
Love that for you for real.
they went to the same college that Theo went to.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah,
Damn.
they went to Runshaw. Yeah, it was like
Small
mental.
world, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then Colin is Scottish. But I was talking to my friend Saf, and they are also Scottish. Like they, born and raised in England, but like their entire family is Scottish.
Yeah.
They haven't listened to episode 3 yet, which is very there's quite a lot of Colin in episode 3. But they're not fully convinced that it's a real Scottish accent.
Ah.
So I'm not sure about that. I will actually message them. Give a brief second for editing because I'm just gonna send them a quick message to be like, "Hey, have you listened to episode 3? What's your take on Colin's accent?" They said this after episode 1, so it was a very brief introduction to Colin. He's been very present episode 2 and 3, so I'm hoping that they'll be able to get like a better read, and I hope that he is Scotland for real.
Yeah, this poor guy is probably from Scotland somewhere, and people like I'm not sure about his accent.
What a hope.
But yeah, so, yeah, I can't speak.
It's okay, go take a second. Take a second, I am typing.
I am very ill, and I am, like, tired, and my brain is yogurt, so, excuse me. So yeah, they work at the
OIAR. Wait, let me get to the institutions page.
OIAR.
The Office of Incident Assessment and Response.
Yeah, it's
sus as I've noted that down. OIAR. I've noted that down as people who work overnight shifts cataloging data gathered from various digital sources, legality questionable, that may be supernatural, paranormal in nature. Which I think, one of the things that I think is really interesting in terms of like theme, the Magnus Archives is like, oh, people come in, they tell you their story to feed the dark god that oversees the institute.
Yeah.
And you don't realize that you are a tool of that god. You don't realize that you are like part of that machine that Elias or Jonah himself is like watching you as you do your job, that this is all like a temple to the eye type of thing where everything is happening for this purpose. Whereas we have the OIAR, and there's almost, it feels a bit more on the nose in that like everybody here sort of knows that. I'm not saying that they're acolytes of the eye. I'm not saying that they know that they're doing like supernatural work, because of course they don't. Nobody really seems to fully buy into the supernatural side of it, but they do seem to be embodying the eye, if that makes sense, in terms of they are definitely not quite legally stealing statements, stealing experiences and stories from people unknowingly. And it just feels like a kind of like, not heavy-handed. I think it's very well done. I think it's like, yeah, you know what, this is quite clever, but it is very much like government observation. What are they taking from us? What do they know about us? Like, it's like allegorical. It's allegorical to me, in my mind.
Okay.
If that makes any sense. Do you know?
Yeah. Yeah. It's. I think it could definitely. How do I put this? I mean, it's filling the same role as the Magnus Institute, which is something that I am wary to try and avoid thinking about, because I feel like
Mm-hmm.
that might be a bit of a red herring.
A red canary.
Uh,
Sorry.
well, funny you should mention that. That brings us on to like, well, that statement in particular. First of all, most of the episode that like you listen to, or at least it feels like, is actually dialogue between characters rather
Mm-hmm.
than the statements themselves. There is still the statement format. It's just well, it's I mean it's John and Martin, but like they're stuck in
It's John
the
Martin.
computer.
They're in the pooter.
And again, this is the thing that's like weird to me because like right, we know ending of Magnus Archive summarized. World gets overtaken by the Eye. All of the powers and the fears get pulled into some sort of other dimension, and that world is saved, right?
Mm-hmm.
They mention that the computers, which for some reason start reading out statements from people, which form the repeating sort of basis of the horror stories that you hear. Um, the computer starts speaking them like in like a text to speech kind of format, and these voices are Johnny Sims and Alex J. Newell, who play John and Martin respectively. And this happened to them a year ago, which is in like 2020, would have been like a year ago.
2023.
2023. Oh shit, wait, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, this is actually happening in January, so it seems like we're getting statements. We're getting Magnus Protocol episodes in like real time, relevant to like our actual timeline in our
Yeah.
actual real human lives, our real
Okay.
human calendar.
Okay, because I was just thinking, huh, the Magnus Archives kind of ended about a year before this podcast is set.
The Magnus within the Magnus Archives timeline, I think that the world ends in 2018. I think the entire timeline for Magnus, the Magnus Archives, is about 2 years,
Right?
2016 to 2018. I think I'll have to double check. Oh, I've got an answer back from Saf. I think he could be real Scottish. They say
Oh, fuck. You heard it here,
so. He
folks.
could be real Scottish. We're hoping that Colin is real Scottish, actually. Um, the Magnus Archives timeline dates. Don't take me to prehistory, girl. Come on, Wikipedia.
Yeah, I just think I think it's interesting that there is that kind of overlap of, oh, this text to speech stuff, which just happens to be in the voices of the two most important characters, happened about like a year ago, according to the time of the recorded podcast. Um, so did they get pulled into this universe and like they're now trapped in this system?
Well, I mean, they would have been, well, one, they would have been pulled through 2018, but again, the apocalypse period of time, time is no more, so they could have been spat out at any point.
True.
So maybe they did get spat out in 2023. But also, what is different about this world is that the Magnus Institute, Manchester, burned down 20 years ago in 1990 something. I haven't read it down, it just says 20 plus years ago.
Yeah,
Um,
it was in like the
so
90s, which more importantly, did not happen in the first series. Like
yes, it
that
was
place.
never in Manchester and it never burned down.
Yeah. I forgot that it was in Manchester.
Yeah, it's in Manchester, which I think is also where Martin's from, canonically, but that's nothing to do with anything really.
Yeah. And again, it's the reason that like I bring up like these parallels between like, oh, okay, the Magnus Institute's not there anymore, and also like uh it's like, oh, this is like kind of weird overlap between like the voices in the computer and like when the series ended like before, is that if this is the universe that the fears got pulled into, which I think it is,
I think so.
uh how come they have only just started to get them reading out things?
Especially
And
if they've been
also
here
there have been,
potentially for 20 years.
yeah, and if they've been here for years, are there other fears already here? Are we getting the same fears? Are we getting different ones? Like,
Yeah. I mean, the fears as like a concept and like the entire categorization of them is purely human. I think like the best description I've seen of like describing like the fears is like a color wheel where like there is no one concrete category that you can apply. It is all just a gradient of fears that blend into different fears. And a lot of it comes down to personal interpretation. So
yeah, I mean,
you know, in terms of are they different fears, they could be the exact same fears. They might just have a different category basis depending on who is doing the categorizing, you know?
yeah, yeah. I mean, like using my zoology degree here, classifying species is notoriously biased and very subjective. And again, you can kind of group them, different species, into sort of distinct groups. But you could argue that one or the other could like overlap with one another. Like, do I draw the line here or do I draw the line here? What makes an individual species? Like, there's a lot of interpretation to it, which I like. It's meant to be messy, but like you got things like
Hmm.
the fear of being watched, the fear of the dark, the fear of being controlled and manipulated. You've got the fear of rotting and like disease and disgust and all that. Like they are things that kind of just come about in lots of different forms, but they can all be categorized in broad groups. And I'm wondering if these are going to be the same groups.
Yeah, I have been like putting my own little like related entities tag on every statement so far in terms of like the first one I think really relates to the stranger and maybe the flesh. The second one is obviously related to the eye. The third statement is definitely the flesh again, potentially the eye. The most recent statement from putting down roots is definitely I feel like the corruption, but like
Oh
again,
yeah.
that's just me putting them down for my own like preference like of having them there so I know what I'm looking at and how I'm relating to it, even though we've already got like categories from the OIAR which are completely different and very convoluted. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, the job of each of the characters in the OIR is to, well, read these. Sometimes they're statements, sometimes they're like Reddit threads. There's like different formats, which is also nice.
Mm-hmm.
That it's not just like a
It's
written
refreshing.
statement. I also appreciate the jump in technology. Like we went from like tape recorders to like '90s like PC, shitty things, uh, and whilst they are categorizing these things, like I mean, there is an audible thud when like Alice like plops down like the binder that like has all of the classification in it. There's a lot
Yeah.
going on, and the categorization seems very, again, it's up to interpretation. It's arbitrary, and they classify it. They send it off, and as Sam's kind of the main character in this. Uh, as he like sends it off, he's like, "Why are we doing this?" And Alice is like, "Who knows? We're getting paid to do it, so." And again, this mass sort of categorization of like fucked up things screams the eye to me.
It does, yeah. But also like
However, well, no, go on. You continue.
oh, like in the whole like idea of if we're going to apply like previous labels to this new series, um it almost feels like the Magnus Institute, if we're going with like the whole religious metaphor for it, the Magnus Institute is like a temple where people come to worship. They bring their statements to feed their god type of thing, you know? That's the
Yeah.
setup that they've got. Whereas the OIAR, that is such a difficult acronym to actually like spit out. Um, and that is coming from somebody who is Welsh, which like has like different vowels and everything. But the OIAR is almost, it feel if we're going to go for like that allegory again, it's almost like scavenging because nobody's bringing these to you. You're having to go through and like sift through databases to steal these on the sly. Search, it is literally quotes, unquote, such as online databases, newspapers, forums, or whatever, for instance, flags them, then passes them through for assessment. Who is assessing them? Why are they being assessed? What is going on here exactly? Um, and like obviously we can make a very strong argument that these spoken statements by Chester and Norris and allegedly Augustus, we haven't heard from Augustus yet,
Yeah, we don't know who the
are,
third voice is.
but like these are, you know, true statements in the same way that the statements in the Magnus archives that couldn't be recorded onto digital technology, they had to be on magnetic tape. How are these able to survive? Or is that just because the technology is so old and fucking clunky that it's managing? Um,
Yeah, I
like
mean,
there's just so many questions to be asked about the OIAR, especially because I think it might have been Gwen, but it could have been Alice. Sam was the one asking the questions either way, and they mentioned response 121. Oh, piss off! Sorry, this just pop up from nowhere about my like antivirus. Previously, previously, there was Response 121, which was a response unit that existed separately to the data management department, which I'm assuming, like from the way it was described, is for actually assessing and managing real supernatural threats or for active cases. But that department no longer exists.
hmm.
So now it is just the OIAR with no response unit, and they're just logging cases and logging cases and logging cases into the void, I guess.
Yeah, see, I've only listened to the first episode again recently, and I do not remember that. Uh, but yeah, so again, like lots of people are like drawing parallels to like SCP here. Like it seems like a much more
Mm-hmm.
like official sort of okay, we have this like facility to deal with supernatural like threats, and they've just kind of given up on it, which is weird, but also kind of makes sense because, like you said, the Magnus Institute in the first series was like a temple. People brought their statements, and that fed their god. I feel like a similar thing might be happening here. Like, why would you have a response team to deal with stuff when you could just have, you know, more information on it? And again, like, I I feel like I'm saying all of this because it makes sense to like think that way.
Mm-hmm.
However, I feel like it's just misleading us. I don't think that this is just another Magnus Institute. The eye is like taking power over and it's using its workers to like, you know, take the statements and all that and like feed it and oh it gets all the knowledge and all of the perceptions of people. I don't think it's that. I think it's something else. But I don't know what. There's something definitely
Yeah,
supernatural about the computers. I mean, just for the fact that like John and Martin are in there. There's
they're in there. They are living in there.
yeah.
Um, but like that seems again recent. But again, if we say like, okay, maybe the fears only came through last year, but a lot of these statements, these true statements, are dated much further back than that. So far, the earliest we have is episode 3, Putting Down Roots, where the statement is from the 3rd of April 2009. That's 15 years. That's 15 years ago. 14 years before we're alleging that John and Martin have brought the fears through. So clearly, the fears have been there. There is something supernatural existing on this plane that is not just the fears that have come through. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, no. Well, this is what I'm thinking is that like, are the fears already here? Are we getting like a weird time overlap where like the fears like went to this universe at its birth, at its inception? But if so,
Were
why
there
are
already fears here, and then are the Magnus Archives universe fears combined with these? Like, what's going on exactly?
yeah? I mean, if we're taking one of the core concepts from the first series, is that it's people having fears that manifests these things, right? Like, you know,
Hmm.
if so many people are scared of the dark, then things from the dark are gonna, you know, come get you. Ooh, like
Yeah, and I'm
that's how the
assuming like
structure of the universe works.
the flesh sort of manifests itself out of like the industrial slaughterhouse industry.
Yeah. Like the more that happens, the worse. Like the people, like the hunt was like one of the first ones because like predator prey interactions and all that. Like
Hmm.
Is it the same function here or is it different? I do not know, but
Exactly.
I feel like there are definitely parallels to the first series because, like, the first ever episode, Anglerfish, was the stranger. Like, you cannot say it is anything else other than the stranger. Weird man in an alleyway. Turns out he's like being puppeteered by some weird thing, and it's like an anglerfish situation, and this person's like about to be drawn in, and then is like, no, I don't trust this, and leaves. And then in the first statement for the Magnus
Hmm.
Protocol, you have a very similar deal. You have the gist is someone
Somebody
lost a
impersonating,
yeah, someone
really.
impersonating the other, and like they use like descriptors like, oh, there's like something pushing from like inside his skin kind of thing, like it's like wearing his skin and all that, and again like that puppeteering kind of thing. And again,
Yeah.
dolls and like mannequins and like things like that are
Uncanny
used.
Valley.
Yeah, like they're used in like representations of the stranger a lot, and again it's a lot of the similar parallels that I'm wondering about. That's like, are we like are we absolutely going to be getting the same sort of fears and creations? And if so, what's going to be different?
Yeah. I mean, they're using of I think one thing that's very interesting in terms of the categorization that they use. The first category, they always use two category tags to attach to these statements.
Yeah, and they like
The
cross link
first
it or
one,
whatever.
yeah, but like the first one is always um, the actual supernatural bit. So the first one is reanimation partial. The second one is transformation eyes. The third one is transformation full. The fourth one is infection full body. And then the second tag is usually linked to an emotion or like to um, either to emotion or to the means by which the information is conveyed. So the first one is regret in an email. The second one is talking about trespassing in a chat log. The third is dysmorphic in a video call. And then the fourth is arboreal in a journal entry. So they're not only categorizing what the sort of supernatural event or like fear or whatever is, but they're also categorizing how we're being relayed the information and potentially what the motivator or the emotion during that time is.
Yeah, yeah, like we're getting the medium and also like the reason why what they're doing, like,
Mm.
which I think is an important factor to consider with the whole sort of, oh, you fear something, it manifests. Like they seem to also be going for that sort of type of feeling towards it. Like, is there a correlation between the fact that this guy was like running away from killing someone and the corruption got him? Like, is that it? I'm interested to see how this list expands because you seem to be listing each of the categorizations, and I'm interested to
Yes.
see like
Yeah.
how they like cross link because it might be like
Yeah.
a overall like a really big flow chart of like, okay, if you have this emotion, it means it's going to be this fear or whatever.
Yeah, I wonder if there's going to be that. And also, speaking of like sort of institution categorization, like organization, one thing I picked up in episode 3, which is it is a police report, which when I listened to this the first time, I just did not hear the fact that it was a police report and a homicide. Completely missed that, and I was like, "Nice journal entry. This guy really misses his wife. Where I hope she's okay." Did not click at all that it was a homicide
Not gonna lie,
until
I
it
did the same
ended. We were
thing.
like,
I did the same thing.
I was like, he's grief counseling. Where's his wife? Is she missing? Um, which I try to piece it together, and I think that him and his wife have separated, and then she's found new love, and he's very bitter about it, so he does kill her. Um, is what I'm getting.
Yeah.
But one thing that I picked up, and I did try to Google this, is that the collector. So it's called case homicide, date, whatever, collection, Kent CID, case number, serial number, collector, special constable Caroline Jennings. And I looked up what a special constable is, and there's not a very clear answer as to what a special constable is.
Huh. So you're thinking
Um,
it's part of the OIAR?
well, I've just pulled up the Google now. I say Google, I don't use Google, but a special constable or special police constable can refer to an auxiliary or part-time law enforcement officer or a person who's granted certain police powers, right?
Right.
Which is oddly specific, and like, why would somebody like that be involved in a murder investigation, especially one of supernatural nature? I could just be pulling at straws. Maybe they are part time. Maybe they just got pulled in for this. I'm not sure. But I'm wondering if a special constable is like sort of a parallel to Section 31 of the police in the Magnus Archives, which, for context,
Oh,
is um,
yes.
a department of the police that are specifically dedicated towards dealing with supernatural events, because within the government, within the police, within higher or like members of organizing society in this way, um, they know about the supernatural. They just don't know what to do with it. So they have Section 31 of the police, which are just there to destroy anything supernatural. Um,
If they
like
can. They don't.
if they
They're
can.
not terribly good at it either.
No, no.
But that's really interesting that you bring that up because that sort of links into like what my theory is at the moment of what the excuse me of what the OIAR is, which is that I think it was like initially with good intentions, a place which was meant to categorize and deal with supernatural threats. I think it did a lot better at doing it than just the Section 31, which was sort of like, hey, supernatural shit occurs, go deal with it. Um,
Yeah, especially because it's like don't people don't pick that. People who police officers who have accidentally come in contact with the supernatural are immediately then transferred to work on section 31 because they're already sort of tainted and like they just get stuck there.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's also something that like no one's gonna believe until they see it. I feel so like they're really the only people who can
Yeah.
work with it. But I do think that originally the facility did have good intentions, but like now it's not. I mean, you mentioned like they got rid of the task force that like would have dealt with like these things, so now it's just a
Hmm.
categorization system. And whilst is it no, not Lena's not the boss. It's no, Lena
Lena
is the
is the
boss.
manager. Yeah.
Yeah, Lena is the manager. I don't know if there's anyone higher up above her or
I mean, they
not.
definitely answer to the government. They definitely answer to somebody, and Gwen seems to be wanting to climb the ladder
Who
to
has a
like get higher.
Yeah, she does, and she has a very
So I think
important
there is
surname as well.
her name, Gwen Bouchard.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. Give me one moment. The cat's scratching. He would like to come inside.
Yeah,
Um,
Elias Bouchard was arguably the main antagonist from the first series. He is my number one pick for who I think uh, Augustus is.
oh,
Um,
sorry. I'm sat back.
no, that's
Um,
okay.
I still am not sure about whether or not Augustus is going to be Elias. When we first heard Chester, Norris, and Augustus, I was like, okay, John, Martin, and Annabelle.
Okay.
That's who it's going to be because Elias is fucking dead. He got stabbed in the heart and he died like
Well,
a good few hours
no,
before.
no offense, but so did John. Like John got
I
stabbed.
mean,
Like that, Martin
yeah, but like
stabbed
John
him.
was I's special little boy.
Well, so was Elias until he got stabbed. Like,
I mean, I don't agree actually, because
oh,
Elias was completely void. Elias was sort of an empty vessel. He couldn't talk. He wasn't actually aware of himself. He was just a conduit for the pupil of the eye, if that makes sense.
yeah.
Whereas as soon as John kills him and takes over his pupil, John has full autonomy. John is still fully aware. John can talk. John can do whatever. John is still himself. Whereas Elias is just sort of a conduit and he is no longer like physically present until he gets shanked, you know?
Okay, okay, yeah. No, that's fair. Yeah, he is just kind of he's not quite the right fit for
He's just
that
not
for
good enough.
yeah, yeah. But I still think it could be him.
I mean,
I
it is now sort of sounding like it might be him more. I'm so sorry if you can hear the crinkling. The cat's trying to climb inside a cardboard bag. Um, he has successfully climbed inside the bag.
But yeah, I do agree with the whole Annabelle thing because like, how the series ends is it's her plan to like draw all the fears through to another dimension. I think that being part of the web, she could definitely pull some strings, no pun intended, and put herself in the computer as well as the other two. Why she would want to do that though?
Well,
I
what I'm
don't
thinking
know.
more is that like she has wound the webs around John, and around the tapes and all of that, making it interconnected. And then, John and Martin are like, let's cut the ties, let's send ourselves through with the fears into the next like reality. And I feel like Annabelle would just get pulled along with that because one, she would just be pulled along because of all the strings. And two, she was dedicated to the Mother of Puppets, you know?
Mm,
Wait, is that her name, Mother of Puppets?
I have no idea.
Web, whatever. The Queen of the Web, like, she was so dedicated to the web in itself. The web, of course, also being one of the only like manifestations of the fears that has almost like a sense of awareness. Because how
Yeah,
else could you be the web if you didn't? But I personally think it makes more sense within like, and if it is Elias, then I'm sure they will have like a good reason for why it is him. But given what we know right now, I feel like it makes more sense for it to be Annabelle.
yeah. No, I can
And
understand that.
I support Alice in not giving gender exclusive names to the voices in the computers, actually. I think she would do that. She's an icon.
You know what? Yeah, but again, like I also do believe that like they are all masculine names, so it's
I mean, I thought Norris was a girl's name.
unless she just suddenly does that, it could. I think it could go either way. Like,
It could absolutely go either way, but I fully thought that Norris was a girl's name because of Mrs. Norris, the cat from Harry Potter. So I was like, okay, Augustus and Chester are Martin and John, and Norris is Annabelle. And then Martin rocks up under Norris, and I was like, who the fuck? What's happening over here? That's not what
yeah,
I predicted.
yeah, because it's Chester, Norris, and Augustus. I wonder if there's like a link in those names as well. Alice also mentioned that like Augustus is the least common, so like we will probably not hear
It's
them
gonna be a
for a
hot
little
fucking minute.
while. Like again, I'm just really wondering because like there is what Jonah Magnus, there is Elias, there
Oh, same
is
guy.
yeah, I mean true, but like, mm, yeah, I just don't think there are enough pieces yet. However, I do think there is something supernatural going on with the OIIR, which I think they're not beating around the bush with it like last time because the Magnus Institute was just the institute last time until it
Hmm.
wasn't, and they were like, oh fuck, it's all fucked up.
It's
Um,
evil here,
it's
actually.
evil here, whereas like they're already like setting up like okay, there's kind of something strange going on. Like again,
I
the
mean, yeah,
computers, the
yeah.
fact that
There's a
there is text to
vibe.
speech on devices from the 90s, the fact that they're doing this job for no apparent reason, the fact that Colin, the tech IT guy, is at the end of the episode he was like, you can't. He was like, you can't hide shit from me. You can't.
I'm gonna fucking find you. And he's
I'm
talking to the voices in the computers. He's in the wires, and he's like, I'm gonna fucking get you. I know you're in there. You can't hide. And it's like, oh, he knows. He knows what's up. He knows it's supernatural and that there's
he
something wrong.
yeah, again, this is why he's like so like well, he's supposedly given up on trying to fix the system. I think he understands that it's not IT. Like it's not IT related. There's something else going
It's
on
not
here.
IT anymore.
Yeah. Um
But like everybody, well, I would say everybody, but so far we have a confirmation from Sam, Alice, and Colin that they all have experience or at least believe in the supernatural. Because at the end of the first episode, which, if I can just take a really quick sidebar, reading the transcripts, it tells you exactly how we're listening in. So most of the time, yes, we're listening in through the computers, but we're also listening into the break room through the CCTV. And we have also listened into a conversation between Alice and Sam at the pub through Alice's mobile phone. So
yeah.
like whatever is like linking us to this other world type of thing, whatever method we are like using to listen in, it's a lot more versatile than the tapes from the Magnus archives.
Yeah, I mean, they're definitely like, I don't want to say they're rushing it. They're not. They're just like not beating around the bush with it. When it comes
Yeah.
to like, okay, you can kind of believe that there is a reason you should be listening to this man talking, which is that's his job, is to record the statements. In this one, there is definitely a sense of they are being watched like immediately.
Yeah.
Like
The
they're
voyeurism of it.
yeah, like I mean, in the first scene, like Teddy leaves his computer on, and like that starts recording him, and he's like, and someone's like, "Hey, you've left your computer on." He's like, "Oh shoot!" And then he turns it off. Like, the Magnus Archives' audio is always diegetic. There is always a reason for it being there.
Until it's in the later seasons where the tape recorders are turning on by themselves and it's becoming more blatantly supernatural.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So there's that sort of sense of like, okay, well, like you
We're
say,
starting off running.
supernatural. Yeah, 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 exactly. We know that they're being watched. We don't know by who. We don't know if it's supernatural. There is an advance in technology, so it could just be entirely digital. I don't think it is. I think it is supernatural. There's just like a lot of little interesting things that I think can be compared to the first series a lot. And I don't think we should ignore it, but I think we should just keep a safe distance from it, just because
Mm-hmm.
it's like I feel like they want us to think a certain way, and I don't think it's that. If that makes sense, like it feels like there's a lot
No,
of
no, Johnny
similarities
Sins is
to
out to get us. He's out. He's laying traps in the woods for us to fall into. He's digging
completely.
pits with spikes at the bottom to catch us.
Yeah,
It's
there's
gonna
a.
work, but like I'm not happy about it.
The thing I want to know about is like in the first episode they mention the Magnus Institute, like their world's version of the Magnus Institute, like straight away, and it's
Mm-hmm.
and they're like, "Have you heard of this place?" And they're all like, "No," and then Sam's like, "Oh, it just feels like a
Blast
blast
from
from
the past.
feels like a blast from the past."
What does that mean, Sam?
What
What
do
does
you?
that mean?
Yeah.
What happened to you, Sam?
Also, Gwen talks to him and is like, "You're not the usual like washed up like person that like comes here. Like, oh, everyone here is miserable and working this job. Why are you here?" And he's like, "Oh, maybe I'm just better at hiding it." What fucked up thing has happened? Why
What's happened to
did you
Sam?
used to
Is
work
he
at the
okay?
Magnus Institute
Well,
before
he
everything?
describes it as trying to get back on his feet. What happened to you, Sam? What happened? Sam has seen something. Sam knows something. Something's happened to Sam. Is my belief. Is
Yeah.
my belief.
Oh,
Like
absolutely.
he's definitely not like display. Oh my god! Hang on 1 second. I swear to fucking god.
I thought I wasn't gonna have to edit this episode.
Yeah, I'm sorry, girl. You're gonna have to code.
No, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine.
It's not fine. I will be suing for damages. Christ. Anyway, where was I? Something has happened to Sam, and I'm so worried about him.
Yeah.
Um, so obviously Sam knows about the supernatural to some extent. Colin knows about the supernatural with the computers. Alice also is like she sort of references the fact that she's like, yeah, there's something fucked up about my job, but I don't ask questions because I don't want to know more about it because it's just gonna get more fucked up by association, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not entirely sure that like Sam like necessarily believes in the supernatural just yet. I mean, at least in the first episode, because he's kind of like, oh, are all the statements like that, or like he seems to be like, I think he's drawing links between his own experiences and like, uh, you know, his work here, because and
Mm-hmm.
potentially stuff at the Magnus Institute. Like, I feel like he's like, oh, it's this again, like, and he's starting to like
Oh,
question the.
like yeah, my experience is not unique. There might be more in the world.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Um, yeah, I don't know. Again, there's just a few breadcrumbs, and like I'm liking the pacing so far. Like we're moving along
Yeah,
pretty quickly.
I mean, is it
Relative
not
to the
like
Magnus
stated to be
Archives.
about? Is it not stated to be about like 90 episodes? So they go into the Magnus archives knowing that they can write as long as they like, so they can make it, they can stretch it across 200 episodes, no worries. They can take their time. Whereas with this, it is going to be about 90 episodes, so they're making it very efficient, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean that's short for Johnny Sims, to be
Yeah.
honest. I mean, if we're getting 90 episodes like of like stuff like this, I'll happily listen to it. Like this, I'm really
Mm.
enjoying it so far. Also, another thing that I'm really enjoying, there's different writers. We getting different writers other than Johnny Sims. I believe the third episode was written by someone else.
Yes, the third episode was. I know that they had some guest writers in for like a handful of statements in the Magnus Archives in the later seasons. People had like won submission contests and whatnot, but
Yeah, I think so. Uh, but like just the fact that we have like mainline story with like actual like new writers, I'm like, hell yeah. It's nice
it's
to have
nice.
fresh
It's interesting. It's
perspectives. Yeah.
fun.
Yeah. I mean, I know we spoiled a bunch of it, but like go listen to it. It's good. Like
Yeah,
I'm genuinely
the stories
enjoying
are
it.
very good.
Uh
Um, episode one, the canary in the coal mine absolutely got me. Like I was at a complete standstill while I was listening to that. It was so captivating to me. Um, the canary, what is that one?
Red
Yeah, it's odd
Canary.
because there's no the red canary. There's no like episode titles related to just one. Um, oh fucking hell, I'm so sorry. This fucking cat. I swear to God. Louder than that. Come on. There's the cardboard. Come on. Come on. Nothing.
This cat represents the spiral for real.
Oh god. I remember like one of the first times we tried to record an episode of Law Whores ever, and it kept getting disturbed because he kept trying to climb up the side of this like rattan cupboard, and like it was not a very big cupboard, so he was going to topple it on top of himself.
I do remember that.
And now I've got one of those big sort of cardboard Amazon bags that this new microphone has come in, and he's just in it, and I can just see his little nose sticking out.
Oh, good for him. Good for him.
Good for him, except when he comes out of the bag, he tries to go over and like drink my bedside table water, which like he can't do because every time he does that, he slaps the glass over it onto my like all my shit on the floor.
Being a single
Cats, you
mother is
know.
hard.
Hey, a single mom who works no jobs, who loves her kid and absolutely does stop. Uh, right.
uh
Anyway,
I
back to the actual like statements. Very much enjoying them.
uh yes, I like the writing style. I like how we're getting like potentially multiple statements like each episode as well, with like interspersed
They're more
dialogue.
bite-sized, more like
Yeah, the more dynamic. I feel like the pacing's just a lot better because like when you listen to an episode of the Magnus Archives, you basically know you're gonna get like 20 minutes of Johnny Sims reading a story, which
which
is
I
good.
enjoy.
Yeah, it's good. It's just it's a lot of that. um, I feel like the season 5 was like kind of like a beta test of this kind of style because that was a lot more like
Yeah, it felt
narrative.
split like more 60-40 as opposed to like 90-10.
Yeah, exactly. Um,
Which, like, don't get me wrong, I enjoyed the Magnus Archives all the way through. I'm also enjoying this. It's just two different ways to enjoy horror, if that makes sense.
yeah, I like the direction that they're going. I like that they're trying new things.
Hmm.
I just feel like there's a lot of very similar things to the first series that I think are red herrings, and I'm interested to see how they either subvert that or just I don't know. I just want to consume
What's the
more.
trick and what is
I,
genuine?
I want more. I want more content. Uh,
Hand it out faster, Johnny, please.
uh I mean, there's an episode tomorrow, so
There is, yeah. We'll
we
we'll get through till then. But yeah, just in terms of like talking about like the actual like stories, the statements themselves, like I can't get over Red Canary. I can't get over it. I enjoyed it so much. Like got me it got me. It had me so captivated. And I listened to it like 2 or 3 times because I wanted to understand exactly what was happening while also reading the transcript. Um, and I think that the fact that it's like a canary, not only was I listening to this while all of the Tunnel Lady on TikTok.
no, I do not. I do not have TikTok because I am trying to better
Oh, but she's
myself.
been in the news. She's a woman for the last like year and a half, 2 years. She's been digging a secret tunnel under her house to mine for rock so that she can build a castle, build a tower. in her garden.
What the fuck?
Yeah, it sounds all funny and silly until you realize that like there's a lot more sinister things happening on the side because um she has no permitting, no licensing. She calls herself an engineer, except she's a software engineer. She's been doing all of these things by herself, filming it. She's had fires, she's had floods. Um, and like all of this is happening in a suburban area as opposed to like somewhere rural. There's been investigative journalism happening around it. And the points that have been dug up is one, she's a Trump supporter. Two, she owns a Tesla. And three, many of her neighbors are first or second generation immigrants and have been too intimidated to contact like local authorities and like councils and whatnot to report her because of their like temporary or like their like temporary like settled status and stuff because they don't want to kick a fuss with local government. So like it's a lot more sinister than like it seems on the surface. Everybody's like, oh haha, tunnel lady, go girl, like hashtag girl boss or whatever. And it's like, oh no, she's profiting and benefiting from like white supremacy. Whoa.
Yeah, I was gonna say God forbid women do anything, but maybe God should forbid.
Maybe God should forbid this one. And because of that, like I was getting loads of content about like mining in general. You know how I feel about mining and the history of mining. Don't get me started about the mines. But I was then like I was watching a documentary with my stepdad and everything about like this one particular mining town in America, like a whole bunch of like I was on my brain was in the mines when this episode came out. So to have a spelunking episode with a canary in it, and I was like, whoa, the stars are aligning. Do you know what I mean?
Maybe this is how people start religions. Right. Well,
What am I mining religion?
I'm gonna say we should end the episode there because I am so tired. I am so tired, and
No, that's fair enough.
I think I need another coffee maybe or like paracetamol or something.
Yeah, probably, girl. Go take care. Go take care of yourself.
Yeah. Well, I will say I think we should end the episode with a little game I like to call what fear is just haunting you at the moment? What fear is fucking with you the most as of recent?
Ooh. As of recent, I'm gonna be okay. It's gonna get real. It's gonna get real dark real fast. Honestly, it is the slaughter, just because of like everything that's going on in the world right now.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
fair. I mean, I was gonna say the
Where are you
corruption
at?
because I'm icky.
Oh, icky, icky, yucky.
I'm
I keep
so
having to
full of
catch
slime.
wasps in Animal Crossing to make money, and like I hate the way that their little legs wiggle.
Ugh. Maybe it
Yeah,
is a corruption sort of week.
it could be a corruption sort of week. Yeah, but yeah, I guess if I may make closing statements, because you know I have to always have a closing statement.
Oh yeah, go for it.
Really, really loved and adored the Red Canary statement. I really, really loved and adored the Roots statement, like the most recent episode three
That was
Roots
one of my
statement.
favorites as well.
It
Pulling
was
out
very
fingers
good.
like pits in a plum. Yeah,
Oh,
that's such a good
the
description.
imagery, the way
Yeah.
that they like, oh, it was so well done. It's like I don't like corruption statements usually, but I really enjoyed this one because I was like, oh yeah, put me in the soil. I'm there. I'm with you. I'm listening to it, picturing it. um, and I guess like one of my like little question theory things is with the red canary statement, we know the red canary like lifts that wooden box with all the carvings and stuff on it. Um and like something then got him, right? Something got Red Canary.
Yeah.
And like ripped out his eyes or whatever and posted a picture on the forum. Do you think that is a creature that followed him home from the Institute? Or do you think that the creature came from the box itself?
Guess we'll have to find out.
I guess we'll have to find out. That's my question for you guys at home. If anybody's listening, do you think it's a creature from the Institute? Do you think it's from the box? And also, do you think that creature is somebody that we know? Do you think that might be Jonah Magnus? Did
Does
they put
Jonah
Jonah Magnus
Magnus
in a bomb?
even exist?
Well, if the Magnus Institute exists, then ye old Victorian Jonah Magnus must have existed, right?
Either that or like Jim Magnus.
Jim Magnus. Jim Magnus and his institute.
I'm gonna end the episode there. I'm gonna stop recording now.
Right. Fair enough.
Bye.
Right. Thank you.